Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about being the dumper does not mean that they don't hurt.
This is a common misconception. We think that there's one person who gets away from the breakup unscathed.
Yeah, it really feels like it because a lot of times they're so cold and they appear, quote unquote, heartless that it looks like they're not going to hurt, because why would they be hurting if they're just shutting you down so easily and being so mean about it?
Right. You just distracted me with the heartless. I just can't help but think Kanye. But, in the beginning, they are in that relief stage. So they're initially feeling elated, and it can seem just by appearances like they're doing just fine. They're unbothered. They don't care about you. They are happier without you. If anything, you are a burden to them. So seeing them in this elation stage can start to make us doubt ourselves a lot and question ourselves a lot.
Yep.
And initially, the dumper feels this relief because the pressure is off. They've made this decision. It probably was hard for them to get to the point of making that decision. And so them having gone through with something difficult to do feels like, okay, this weight's off my shoulder. But remember, just like all emotions, relief is temporary, right? They don't actually start to experience what the breakup is like on the longer term once time has passed and once they're able to have some space.
Yep.
So once that dust settles, then the reality of the loss starts to set in. And there's this slow motion that happens in the breakup, meaning that before the actual breakup, the dumper is likely thinking about, what the relationship is meaning to them at the time, and probably thinking about their decision to end things. They're probably feeling ambivalent for a while. So for you, everything happened so fast. For them, they've been probably thinking about this and sitting on this for a while if it wasn't an impulsive type breakup.
Yeah, it's always shocking when it happens to you, but probably there have been a lot of points leading up to this where they'll think about it, like, not I'm going to go through with it, but like, I'm not sure if this is working. I don't think this person is right for me because of XYZ. And they start telling themselves these stories about why it won't work. And so it's easier for them when you're kind of planning on leaving, as opposed to when all of a sudden, it just happens out of nowhere. Like some of you guys just get into a fight out of nowhere, and then the breakup comes out of nowhere. In other words, you were both relatively happy and you break up. But there are a lot of situations where somebody's been thinking for a while, they're kind of getting on my nerves. They're smothering me, or they don't give me any space, or maybe the opposite. They've been neglected for a while and they're like, I've been telling you I need more time with you and I want to see you more, and you're not doing anything different about it. So they get upset and they finally leave. There are different things that people are going to be thinking about why they're going to leave, and they're not always going to be so communicative. It's a tough word to say.
That is a tough word. That edit right there was because of that communicative. You got him.
You nailed it, though. You said it good.
Communicative.
Communicative. I got it. But it's tough because not a lot of people are going to express themselves, and so, or they do in such a way that you're not taking it seriously. But if this happens and they end things so quickly, they may not look too emotional. They don't look too upset. And you're like, well, they must not really care about me. They never cared about me because they're acting so cold.
Right. And when you start to see them distance, you start to make up your own reasonings for that. A lot of times dumpers feel guilt too. So they could be avoiding you because they're avoiding thinking about the relationship, about the breakup, and they're avoiding their own guilt from ending the relationship. So this avoidance can be coming out with that coldness and even more distance. One thing that's really important to remember is your timeline is different than theirs, and their timeline is different than yours. So in healing from the breakup, you're getting this news just now. You're trying to process it in a totally different way than your ex is. And for them, they feel grief too. Talking with Margaret, she talked about how powerful grief is and how nobody really can escape that grief. Everybody has to process. Even the people who suppress a lot, it's still there, it's still existing.
I remember her often saying that people do not want to grieve. They will do anything in their power not to grieve.
Right.
To push it away.
Yep. And so if you're seeing that your ex is in this elation stage, you might be wanting to push that guilt because you want them to feel bad so that you feel wanted, or that you think that that guilt will cause them to rethink the breakup. Well, if they see how sad I am, if they see how hard this is for me, then they're going to want to get back together to make me feel better.
Yep.
Right? Guilt does not cause attraction.
At all. At all. That is such a big point because, you know, when I talk about the Applebee's breakup, man, did I make her feel guilty.
What did you do? Confess.
Well, I was
time.
always like, I don't understand. How could you do this? We got along so good. It doesn't make any sense. And it was true. She wasn't disagreeing with me because she really was like, yeah, it is true. So it's hard. So you feel bad because you know that this is somebody that really cared about you, was good to you, and you feel awful that you're hurting them. But that doesn't make you feel attracted to somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you feel on an equal level playing field. It kind of feels like you feel bad for them and you care for them, but you don't feel that like passion or excitement or playfulness with them.
Yeah.
You feel too bad. It's like you kicked a puppy.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I feel horrible that I kicked this puppy.
We were laughing earlier because we were talking about how in my experience I had forced an ex to watch SpongeBob with me. This was back in Norway when I was, younger. And the situation was I had basically shown up unannounced.
Against my good, wise judgment, by the way. I was literally telling her, don't do it. Don't go.
This is my mistake.
And you had such a bad signal, or you were faking it. Shh, gotta go.
And so the situation was, it was time for me to go, and I persisted. I was like, no, if I leave now, it's going to all be over. I can't leave now. I was so afraid that if I were to leave and just end that interaction, that would be final.
Yeah.
And my forcing it had caused that, essentially. So I had, gone back and be like, oh, let's watch one more episode of SpongeBob, Svampebob. It was in Norwegian. So he had found like the streaming channel that had the Norwegian SpongeBob. And
Is that how you learn Norwegian?
Partly.
You're watching SpongeBob?
I only know all the words in SpongeBob
You knew the
now.
English version so well, it was easy to translate.
Maybe. But,
Is this the Krusty Krab?
I was trying so hard to provoke guilt. Oh, I'm just so sad, and this is just so difficult. And this,
You had the suds.
I had the suds. I was just trying to, project all of that onto him in a very unfair way. I could not handle my own emotions, and I didn't have that emotional self-control. So when we tell you that we understand what it's like when you're in it, trust me, we understand.
Yep.
We've been there. And guilt is not one of those emotions that can evoke that kind of curiosity, mystery, passion. It's just not.
It just destroys attraction
Right.
so quick.
And it can often cause irritability. A lot of times they're already feeling guilt. This is already something that is difficult for them, and they're suppressing it for a reason because they're, trying to make this decision happen and experience what that's like for them. And so if we're trying to guilt them and push that feeling onto them, a lot of times, they become irritable. They have to double down, and then that can, spiral. So guilt is not one of those emotions that you want to use to try to manipulate a partner or an ex.
And many of you are trying to do it. I know you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
I hear it. I see it.
Yeah. Getting through their guilt is their own responsibility. We can't force that upon anybody.
Yep.
So manage your expectations with this. Your ex is going through their own experiences, their own stages in the breakup, and you don't have to wait for them to show you that they're hurting in order for this pain to be real for you. There's a very popular the script song that I love. It's Break Even. It's like probably their most popular song. But it talks about this dynamic where, your ex is just thriving and happy, and you're over here like really struggling. And the whole idea is when a heart breaks, it doesn't break even, meaning that, one person takes on and carries on more of the pain. You don't have to have your ex show you how hurtful and painful this is for them in this moment, for that pain on your end to be valid, for you to acknowledge it, for you to work through it. Sometimes we feel like we need that kind of validation from our ex. Well, if they're hurting, then that means this relationship was really powerful and impactful. So consider that too. Breakups are something that's really difficult, and we always try to encourage you to take a look at your own pain to work through.
Yeah, you have to realize that, you're not likely going to hear how much pain or how difficult the breakup was until they reach out to you. And I tell you guys this all the time. If you stay quiet and you're not doing most of the talking, you're doing most of the listening, there's a good chance you're going to hear it. I thought about you every day. I would look at your social media. I was thinking about your grandma. I was thinking about your dog. I miss the cat. I mean, they're going to tell you all this stuff. I hear it probably on a weekly basis about an ex telling all these things when they've reached out and all the things that they've been experiencing. You don't think it at the time, and it looks completely hopeless, but for them, they're going through it in a different way at a different time and a different timeline, you know?
Yeah. So have compassion for yourself. Treat yourself kindly as you go through this. So have compassion for yourself. Treat yourself kindly as you go through this. And remember that your ex has their own timeline. The dumper also goes through it. They just go through it differently.
Yep. It's so hard to believe it when you're going through it and you're in no contact and you're not hearing from them for a while, but we see it and hear it all the time. They're very likely getting through this unscathed. Now, some of you may have been dating some people with some really severe mental health problems.
True.
That are, personality disorders.
They got bigger fish to
serious
fry.
issues like that. And maybe they won't quite experience it. But for the overwhelming amount of people watching this and going through it, their exes are feeling it a lot more than they're letting on. They're not going to show you these things. They're going to hide these things, because if they don't, you're going to try and change their mind and force them to repair things when they're not ready.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully this one's been helpful to you. If you'd like to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Click on her name on the top of the website and you could schedule with her. That's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.